The morning of Jake's wedding, I arrived before sunrise, before the florist, before the DJ, before even Claire's overpaid makeup artist showed up. The kitchen was cold and empty. Just me, 3 coolers packed with food, and a battered rolling pin I've had since 1979. My hands moved on instinct, glazing the ham, garnishing the pies, folding cloth napkins into perfect swans. I didn't need a thank you. I just wanted to make my son's day beautiful. Claire had insisted on a rustic garden wedding. Elegant but humble, she called it. What she really meant was cheap, but Instagrammable. So I offered to cater as my gift. No one argued. They just handed me a list and expected miracles. I worked through the morning, ignoring the pain in my hip and the blister forming on my thumb. Sylvia, the wedding planner, floated in around 10 a.m., barely glancing at me. "You the cook?" she asked, flipping through her clipboard. I paused. "I'm Jake's mother." "Oh," she said, tone unchanged. "Still, just keep the appetizer trays coming." Claire's very specific about not having empty platters. Just the cook. That's what she saw. That's what they all saw. By sunset, I was exhausted. My apron was stained with cranberry reduction, and my back screamed every time I stood. But everything looked perfect. Guests arrived. Claire floated down the aisle in silk and lace. Jake looked nervous, but handsome. I stood in the back row, just where Claire had assigned me. When the reception began, I helped refill trays while people complimented the food, none of them knowing the woman behind it was the one who raised the groom from diapers to diplomas. And then came the speeches. Claire took the mic, glass of rose in hand. "I just want to thank everyone who made this day special, especially our amazing cook, Ellie, wherever you are." The food was just chef's kiss. Laughter. Applause. Even Jake chuckled. He didn't even correct her. Not my mother. Not the woman who paid for my first semester of college. Just the cook. I slipped out the back. My purse was under the prep table. Inside it, a check with Jake's name, dated last week. $75,000. The deposit for his new home. I stared at it for a long moment, and then I quietly slid it back into my wallet, untouched. They clapped when she was invisible, but they won't clap when she walks away. If you've ever been uninvited from your own life, like, comment, and subscribe. Your story deserves to be heard. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my black flats, wedding dust clinging to the hem of my dress. I hadn't eaten a bite all day, though I'd cooked for over 100 people. I reached into my nightstand and pulled out the photo, the one of Henry holding baby Jake in his arms. His apron was covered in flour, and Jake had icing on his nose. Henry used to say, "Food made with love is louder than words." He died when Jake was 10. I buried my grief in roast beef and cornbread, opened my catering business to survive. Jake helped me pack trays, clean pans, carry leftovers. He used to tell me, "One day I'll buy you a restaurant, Mom." I didn't want a restaurant. I just wanted him to remember. I walked into the kitchen and opened the freezer. A single slice of wedding cake waited there, wrapped in foil. I dropped it in the trash, not out of anger, out of clarity. I wasn't going to preserve anything that had erased me. Gloria came over the next afternoon with her famous almond bars and the kind of knowing look only best friends can wear. "I saw your face at the wedding," she said softly. I didn't pretend. "They called me the cook, Gloria. That's all I was to them." She poured tea like she always did. Extra sugar, just how Henry liked it. "You were going to give him something, weren't you?" she asked. I reached for my purse and pulled out the check. Gloria gasped. $75,000. I nodded. Saved over 10 years. He and Claire wanted to buy that condo downtown. Gloria leaned back, eyes wide. "Don't you dare hand that over now." "I haven't. I won't. But it hurts." The doorbell rang. It was Claire's mother, Kate. She handed me a box of leftover napkins and said, "Claire wanted me to return these. She said you might want to reuse them for your catering gigs." No thank you. No eye contact. When I closed the door, I looked down at the box. Inside, on top of the napkins, was one of my handwritten recipes, lemon basil chicken. In Claire's handwriting, the title was changed to Claire's signature herb roast. I turned to Gloria, my voice low and shaking. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Jake and Claire standing on my porch. She wore sunglasses and a tight smile. Jake had the same look he always had when he needed something. Soft voice, shoulders drawn, like a boy rehearsing a speech. "Mom," he said, "we noticed you left early. Everything okay?" Claire chimed in before I could answer. People were asking where the caterer disappeared to. I blinked. "I wasn't the caterer. I was your mother," I said quietly. "And I left because I realized that wasn't what I was to you anymore." Jake shifted. "Come on, Mom. You're overthinking this. Everyone loved the food." Claire rolled her eyes. "Honestly, you're being kind of dramatic. You said this was your gift, right? Why make it about you now?" I clenched my teeth, steadied my voice. "Because it was never about food. It was about respect, which you serve cold." Claire laughed, like I told a joke. Jake didn't even look at me. "Anyway," he said, scratching the back of his neck, "we were just wondering if you still planned on helping with the down payment for the condo." There it was. Not a thank you. Not an I'm sorry. Just a transaction. That night, I poured myself a cup of peppermint tea and stared at the check again. The one I hadn't torn, but couldn't bring myself to give. I slid it out from my wallet and laid it flat on the table. The ink was still fresh, paid to the order of Jake Henderson. I stared at his name until it blurred. Then I reached for a blank one. This time, I wrote another name, Sarah Lamont. She was my neighbor's daughter, 19, working 2 jobs, trying to put herself through community college. She once helped me carry groceries home and told me she wanted to be a pastry chef. A girl who said thank you, who called me Miss Ellie with a smile, who reminded me of myself when I still believed people meant their words. I wrote the check. $25,000, a third of what I'd saved. I wasn't giving money anymore to people who gave nothing back. A knock at my door interrupted me. It was Pastor Rob, the one who had married Jake and Claire just 3 days earlier. He'd come to return my serving trays from the church's back room. "I just wanted to say," he said gently, "your food was a gift. But your presence, that should have been honored more." His eyes met mine, and I saw what they didn't. It was Melissa, my niece, who sent the link. "Aunt Ellie," she texted, "isn't this your lemon thyme pie?" I clicked on the website. Claire Henderson Catering Company stared back at me in blush pink font. There, under the Signature Dishes tab, was a pie I'd made for decades, first for church picnics, then for Jake's 6th birthday party, then every Thanksgiving until Claire took over dessert duty. It was the exact same. The crust crimp, the citrus zest, even the name. Except now it was Claire's award-winning lemon thyme tart. I felt like someone had vacuumed the air from my lungs. Scrolling down, I saw more familiar dishes, dill roasted chicken, fig brie bites, even my mother's pecan stuffing. All mine, rebranded, resold, and rewritten. Not a single mention of me. Not a footnote. Not a nod. Not a mother-in-law. Just a menu. I didn't tell Jake. I didn't argue with Claire. I wanted to see for myself. Melissa drove me to one of Claire's pop-up tasting events hosted downtown in a boutique wine bar. I wore sunglasses and a scarf. No one looked twice. The place was buzzing with influencers and investors. Jazz music hummed. Tiny portions floated past on trays. I sat in the back while Claire charmed a group of food bloggers. "This recipe," she said, holding a rosemary scone, "was inspired by generations of Henderson women." I could have laughed out loud. Because the only Henderson woman who cooked was me, and her mother, Kate, once told me she'd never trust a woman with flour under her nails. As Claire worked the room, I noticed a girl serving sparkling water. Melanie. She used to wash dishes for me when I catered weddings in town. She saw me froze, then smiled wide. "Miss Ellie? Is that you?" "Sure," I whispered. "I'm just watching tonight." She looked at Claire and leaned in. "She says she came up with these recipes herself," Melanie whispered. "But this tastes exactly like your chocolate orange pound cake. I remember from that Easter brunch." I nodded, heart heavy. They didn't just steal my food. They served my soul on silver platters and forgot who baked it. The next morning, I dusted off a box I hadn't opened in years, an old recipe binder filled with my original drafts. Faded ink, grease-stained corners, notes scribbled in the margins like, "Try more nutmeg for fall weddings. Henry loved this with black coffee." My hands trembled as I flipped through. There they were, each and every one of the dishes Claire had paraded around. I placed them side by side with screenshots from her catering website. The phrasing, the spice pairings, even my signature pecan glaze trick. She hadn't borrowed my ideas. She duplicated them. So I made a call to Nina Ward, the lifestyle columnist at the local paper. Years ago, she had done a story on my business, the Queen of Comfort Food. I sent her the binder photos, the wedding video with Claire's speech, the catering website with stolen recipes, the guest list showing my connection. She didn't need much convincing. This, she said, is not just plagiarism. It's erasure. 2 days later, the article dropped. Bride builds business on mother-in-law's recipes without permission. Nina didn't hold back. She highlighted the side-by-side recipes, quoted my binder notes, mentioned the wedding snub, and even interviewed Melanie, who confirmed that she had worked with me and recognized the dishes. The article went viral in our town overnight. By noon, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. "Mrs. Henderson," the voice asked. "This is Charles Howard. I was reviewing a partnership with Claire's catering brand. I just wanted to clarify, are you the original creator of these recipes?" "Yes," I said. "Every single one." "Well," he sighed, "that changes things. Thank you." Later, I saw Claire's company Instagram post, "We are pausing all operations until further notice." And just like that, the empire built on my stolen dishes began to crumble. Melanie dropped by that evening. She brought homemade banana bread, her own recipe. "I don't know what you plan to do next," she said, "but whatever it is, I want to learn from you." I looked at her, young and eager and honest. Maybe I wouldn't get my name back from Claire, but maybe I could give someone else theirs. My phone rang just after 7 p.m. Jake. I let it buzz twice before answering. Not to punish him, but to remind myself I wasn't waiting anymore. "Mom," he said, breath heavy. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned back in my chair. "Good evening to you too. You humiliated Claire. You know how hard she's worked." I held the phone tighter. She worked hard stealing my recipes, lying to investors, and turning my food into her career. If that's your definition of hard work, maybe I failed somewhere after all. There was silence. "You didn't even give us a chance to fix it," he muttered. "You didn't give me a seat," I replied. I could hear his breathing. "Faster now." "She's crying," he said. "So was I whispered. "The day my own son laughed while they called me a cook. You watched them shrink me. You clapped when they erased me." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just said, "Do you really think any of this helps?" "No," I said. "It doesn't help you, but it helped me breathe again." That night, I sat by the window with a slice of warm peach pie and a notepad. I didn't write anything at first, just sat there listening to crickets. Then I thought of Margaret, one of my first clients back in the 90s. She once told me, "The second you let someone rewrite your name, you disappear." She was right. For years, I let people turn me into just the caterer, just the helper, just the cook. Jake had inherited Claire's mouth, but not my memory. He forgot the late nights, the school lunches, the prom tux pressed and ready by 7 a.m. He forgot because forgetting made it easier to accept what Claire needed me to be. Invisible. The truth was, he didn't protect me. And I can't protect him anymore either. I called my lawyer and told him I'd like to draw up something. "Nothing ugly," I said. "Just a redirection of my living trust." He asked, "Do you want them to know?" I smiled faintly. "Not yet. Let them wonder why the lights flickered." I wasn't burning the house down. I was flipping the breaker. I turned my old sunroom into a test kitchen. Not fancy. No granite counters or chrome fixtures. Just warm light, battered cutting boards, and the soft smell of rosemary that clung to the curtains. Jasmine was the first to sign up, a 21-year-old college dropout with spark in her eyes and calluses on her hands. "You're not just teaching me cooking," she said after our first class. "You're showing me how not to shrink." I smiled. Melanie joined the following week. She brought a handwritten notebook and asked me to sign the first page. "For luck," she said. We didn't gossip about Claire. We didn't bring up Jake. There wasn't room for bitterness here. Only butter. Only cinnamon. Only rebuilding. One day, an older woman from my past, a former client named Lydia, showed up at the door with her granddaughter. She wants to learn from the real deal, she said. The one who taught an entire town what food with love tastes like. I welcomed them in. The old fire still burned. Only this time, I wasn't cooking to prove anything. I was cooking to pass something on. 3 weeks later, I mailed a check. Not to Jake. Not to Claire. To the State Women's Business Initiative, a program that funds culinary startups for underrepresented women. I included a note. For the girl too young to be heard and the woman too old to be remembered. It was $75,000, the same amount I'd saved for Jake. I named it the Just the Cook Fund. They asked me why I called it that. I said, because for most of my life, that's all I was to people. But now it means something different. When the fund went public, I started getting letters. Young women from Arkansas, New Jersey, even overseas. They'd read about the recipes, the betrayal, the rebuild. Some sent me their own. Family cornbread, street cart chili, cinnamon milk buns passed down by grandmothers. They weren't asking for permission. They were offering solidarity. And as I taped each recipe to the wall of my kitchen, I felt it. My name was back. Not because they gave it, but because I never really lost it. It was a Saturday afternoon when Jake finally came alone. No Claire, no attitude. Just him, standing at my gate, holding a pie I didn't teach him to make. I opened the screen door, slowly. I just wanted to talk, he said. I let him in. We sat at the table, the same one where he once did his math homework. He stared at the walls, at the recipe clippings, at Melanie's scribbled notes taped next to my own. He said, I saw the article. The fund. I guess. I didn't realize how much of you I'd lost. I didn't speak. He placed the pie in front of me. It was too sweet. The crust was soggy, but it was the first thing he'd ever cooked for me. I'm sorry, he finally said, for letting her take from you, for not stopping it, for calling you just the cook. I looked at him, not angry, not bitter, just clear. You didn't call me that, I said. You watched them do it, and you didn't stop them. That's worse. He flinched. I reached for my teacup, calm as dawn. I forgave you the day I rewrote the check. But I don't forget what silence costs. The next morning, Gloria dropped by with blueberry muffins and a grin. I saw the press release. That new bakery downtown, Melanie's shop? She named it Ellie's Oven. I smiled. I told her not to. She didn't ask, Gloria said. She insisted. I walked to the window and looked out at my garden. Basil, thyme, sunflowers reaching for sky. No wedding tables. No silk chairs. Just peace. No one clapped when I folded the linens. No one snapped pictures when I built something from scratch. But now, they were learning. Not to worship me. Not to thank me. But to see me. Gloria poured the tea. You ever miss it? She asked. Before the wedding. Before all this. I thought of Jake's laugh as a child. Of Henry's flour-covered apron. Of my own hands, cracked, tired, full of stories no one heard for too long. No, I said, because now I finally taste what I've made. I bit into the muffin. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine.